Cool. So when you look at the answers that you have, they look different from the ones you'd written yesterday, if you'd done that before, and the ones from a couple of days ago when we were reading, because every time we've been reading the chapters, we've been answering the questions beforehand. Do you see a change? Do you see a difference in the way that you're responding, or are the answers pretty much the same? Okay. So that's one of the things for me, even if it's not an answer that I'd necessarily like, I still get this insight into what's going on in my world and where I'm functioning from. And I definitely see some sort of movement. May not be, you know, from not having to having everything, but I can see a difference in the journey. I can see the movement there. And more than anything, it's recognizing that I am not that point of view. It is a point of view. It is where I've been shrinking things to a point. It's where I've been sticking myself, contracting my energy, making things, you know, smaller, tighter, etc. But it's not who I be. And so having the ability to put it outside of me, whether on a phone or on a notebook or, you know, wherever the case is, looking at it, knowing that's just a point of view. Not me. I'm the big blue sky. I'm not whatever that cloud is. But that cloud is currently how I'm judging the weather of the day. How I'm looking at my life and going, oh fuck, it's stormy, or hurricanes are coming, or it's terrible, or wow, what a beautiful sunny day. And I'm using that thought to define and confine what I really could have and be and enjoy in my life. When I, bless you, but when I recognize that this is not who I be, this is a cloud, not the big blue sky, then I have another choice. I shine the light of consciousness on it. I look at it and I can see something else is possible for me if I'd like to have it. So how does it get even better? I love writing these questions. You are welcome to pock and pod yourself on every point of view that comes up. You're welcome to just sit with it, smile and go, wow, that's curious that I have that point of view. Or isn't that cool? Huh, okay, is there more information there for me? Or if something doesn't work for you, rather than judging it, just look at it and go, wow, what a gift this point of view has been, because it's brought me to right here and right now. And I'm fine as I am right here and right now, being the blue sky that may be hidden, maybe tucked in, but I'm fantastic as I am, and what else is possible. Hang on a quick sec. Oh, cool. Sometimes I don't multitask too well, you know? I mean, being humanoid and all, or whatever, they say we're supposed to be, you know, so good at multitasking. And I tend to go, ooh, shiny object right over there. I've just lost whatever train I was ever on. So anybody who's holding at least my spiral version of the book, chapter 4 is what does money feel like to you? It's on page 58. It'll be somewhere around there in the version that you have. Most likely you have the pretty version, but mine is in Spanish and my English is my old beat up underlined version. So chapter 4, what does money feel like to you? And I know this isn't a class where it's, you know, like facilitation, etc. It's more of a book club and reading, and just not even a book club. It's like reading along and having fun and talking about it. But at any point in time, if anything comes up, hi Misha, this is not Kane, this is Kippy. Just so you know. And she was with me in the pool as well. She's been with me like glued to me during this. Kane is over here on the side. They don't get along, but they've been very close with anything, whether it's a class, a read-along, the ESC with Dr. Dane. Anytime I sit down on a chair, there will be at least this one coming over, if not 2 or 3 cats coming over. because Dora is downstairs. So if we sit downstairs, Dora comes right over. So anyway, what I wanted to say is any question, any comment, any like doink that lands in your world, bring it up. It can be a contribution for anyone, you know, who's going through this. And I can tell you, I've read this book lots of times. And the last day we got together was Tuesday. So I was re-listening through the whole time I was cleaning the kitchen for Passover. I was re-listening to chapter 2 and chapter 3 because there were little nuances in it that passed right over my head. The other 10 gazillion, I don't know how many times I've read the book before. I can quote from the book so many things, but this just went boink into how I function in the world. And it was really like a, whoa, stop and really get this. And yeah, it could be, no matter how many times you read this book, all sorts of interesting things can come through it. And it just points you to the direction, to the space, to the wonder that you are. And the majority of us don't function from, you know, the space and the wonder and the joy and the possibility of who we be. We contract like everybody else on the planet does. And this is our invitation to go beyond that. So if something's coming up in your world and you'd like to bring it up, it can contribute to other people here too. So you're welcome to stop me anytime. What does money feel like to you? Raz. Good. So the next question. Who wishes to volunteer for the next question? Student, I will. Raz, well, yes. What's the next question? Student, well, what does money feel like to you? Raz, well, what does it feel like? Yes, that is correct. Student, then that's different than the emotions that you feel about money? Raz, well, not necessarily. Student, I said, oh, great. Raz, so what does money feel like to you? Student, well, right now, it feels very confused. Raz, is like confused? Do you feel that money, that confusion, is an emotion? Student, an emotion and a thought. Raz, it is a state of mind, yes. Student, yes. Raz, so remember when we spoke about that which was the dizziness? Student, yes. Raz, did you open your crown chakra and allow it to move out? Confusion is a created image of money. What assumption would you have to have confusion? So when he's saying confusion is a created image of money, he's saying it's not real. It's an invention. It's a thought. It's a point of view, just like what we're writing down when we're answering these questions. These are all points of view. They're not the truth of who you are. And so that's a creation. How many creations and inventions are we using to create the limitations in our life? So this is where he's addressing the underlying assumptions. Confusion is a created image of money. What assumption would you have to have confusion? Well, you would have to assume that you do not know. The assumption would be, I do not know, and I should as heck know. Student, well, that's why I feel confused. Raz, that is right. I do not know. I should know. These are opposing points of view, which creates confusion, and they are only interesting points of view. Feel that shift from when you say that about each one of them. I should know. Perceive that. I don't know. Between a rock and a hard place, eh? Interesting point of view that I don't know. Interesting point of view that I should know. Interesting point of view that I don't know. Interesting point of view that I should know. How does the confusion feel now? Well, except for the fact that I, so the student, of course, summarize. Student, well, for me right now, it seems very unreal in the sense that perspectives for me are money and energy, power and creativeness in their purity. That seems very clear when I'm not dealing with money, where I don't have to have some. Raz, so what is the assumption, that underlying point of view, from which you are functioning? Student, that there is some reality not understood. Raz, exactly so. Student, that's the real problem. Raz, that is not the real problem. That is the assumption from which you function, which says to you automatically that it is different from the reality of you. Your assumption is that physical reality is not the same as spiritual reality, as the reality of who you truly are. That purity does not exist upon this plane, that you can never bring the purity onto this plane. It's funny. What I'd underlined on here previously, years ago when I read it, is the underlying assumption from which you function, which says to you automatically it's different from the reality of you. This is really interesting, even though we don't speak metaphysical in access, in the world of access typically, but it is, this goes back to everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be. There isn't that separation of this is only physical, this is only spiritual or energy or consciousness, whatever word you'd like to put on it. It is all one and the same. And we keep looking for a separation of what is. That's interesting. Student, that's right. Raz, those are assumptions. Those are false informations from which you've created your reality. I'd sent out a little message about Passover yesterday, a little, just a WhatsApp to some people who are in my WhatsApp world, and sent a little funny video, and I sent some things about how when we, anyway, long story short, the Egypt in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. Meitzar, the root of the word is limitation or barrier or boundary, from narrowing in, so contraction, into freedom. And I was, I didn't think much of it. I shared it, and some people are like, oh, happy Passover, etc. And this one lady reached out and said, you have no idea how deeply your message had hit. And it was really interesting because it wasn't a very long message, but she said, there's this relaxation and ease in her world in recognizing that there's something else available there. Anyway, she had just started studying Kabbalah, and so she was asking, about some concepts there, and I guess, adding some of the Hebrew words like Mitzrayim for the Egypt, we're leaving our limitations. We're leaving being slaves of everybody telling us what we have to do and how we have to do it. And we're learning through this process, this leaving the barriers, leaving the dictator who, enslaves us and tells us exactly what to do, into suddenly, okay, well, that's all of those controls, quote unquote, are going away. Now, what do you choose? And the whole process of being in the desert and all that is learning freedom to choose possibilities. So it was really interesting, but she'd asked me some questions. And one of the things that I got is that everything is the opposite of what it appears to be, and nothing is the opposite of what it appears to be, is that space of formlessness, that before we start to define things, before we start to confine things, before we define a particular path for how something has to be, there's energy beneath it all, and it could turn into 1,000 different things. Reminds me, if anyone has ever watched the movie What the Bleep Do We Know, there was a scene of the boy on the basketball court, bouncing the basketballs, and suddenly it wasn't just that ball and that basket, and it's like all these different possibilities that could be occurring all at the same time. Well, that's kind of what the world is like for me anyway, or maybe that's the 4 glasses of wine from last night talking. I don't know, but it's this, there's so much more than meets the eye. And there's so much more than meets our, wow, our limited way of this is the way it has to be. So it's a beautiful exploration. And anyway, I'm still in that. I haven't quite, sometimes I can't even verbalize it. It's this space of possibilities that we are, that we be, that there's so much that we could choose from, and we just point at the ball that we'd like to have and be. So not sure how I got on that track, but anyway. Bonuses of reading with Rachel, sometimes squirrels show up. Those are assumptions. Those are false informations from which you've created your reality. Student, well, it's also confused by the fact that there seem to be other beings that have different realities, and there isn't any confusion for other people, it seems. The people themselves, their viewpoints of other people, the people on my street, the people at the store. Raz, what is it about that you're speaking of? That there are other realities? That other people have different realities? Yes, there are some. And this is what Dane speaks about when he says we're bit players in other people's movies and other people's worlds and other people's plays that they have going on, and they have their expectations of the part that we have to play. And if we don't meet that part, then they may not necessarily like that. But we're so much more than that particular vibrational virtual reality. So what is it about that you're speaking of? That there are other realities? That other people have different realities? Yes, there are some. Student, well, from a different point of view, and that, Raz, is there anybody here who does not identify with what she said? They all have the same point of view as you do, he says. Student, you mean they're all confused? Raz, yes. They all think that you cannot bring to reality that which is the spiritual world into the physical reality, and that every man on the street has exactly the same point of view. And only those who do not buy that point of view, do not assume that it is absolutely impossible, are able to create, and even they are only able to create in small ways their reality. There is a world in that paragraph, and interestingly, I never even marked it up before. And I'm looking at it now going, wow. Wow. Oh, I think Passover and whatever, something is changing, and or maybe it's the global ESC that went on yesterday. I don't know. But wow, most people don't recognize the gift of the consciousness of everything. And what he's calling here the spiritual world is consciousness, is that energy that we be. And so people are looking for the proof, the physical actualization as proof of it actually existing, or as proof or a definition of a person's success or of having, rather than recognizing that by being willing to be the energy of something, is what invites it in. Most people are looking for the physical result first, and only then do they say, oh, I made it. And so most people doubt, and this is where the doubt, and I don't know if you remember the metaphor he had given before of a golf tee. I don't remember if it was in chapter 2 or in chapter 3 that, sorry, this is my earbud, but same idea. It kind of looks like a golf tee, but that if you put your question or your idea on it like a ball, but you knock this sucker out all the time with doubt, then this falls. Then no wonder you can't be what it is that you say that you'd like to have and be, because this falls off, right? And doesn't support what it is that you'd like to have anyway. But if you have that confidence, that trust, that knowing, hello, space please, thank you. If you're willing to be the I be awareness, I be control, I be creativity, all of those elements that that Raz goes into in chapter 1, what is money? when we're willing to recognize that we be that, everything begins to show up in our life. But we doubt that we be that because it hasn't shown up already. But you have to be it in order to have it. So we're really screwing ourselves over every time we go, I can't be that because I don't have it already. So then I'm definitely not that. I'm, a walking pile of poop because that thing hasn't shown up in my life yet. Doink. Wow. So this is his invitation to saying, look, everybody else in the world doesn't believe that it can be that way because they're all believing in, I have to see the physical. They're looking for the lie in that. So how many other lies do we use to judge ourselves out of being the grandness of who we be, the contribution of who we be, just because we're looking for the proof in a physical world right this minute and not allowing something to blossom and flourish and melt and change there. It's really interesting how we don't even acknowledge how much our choices affect the world, how much the choice that we make changes not only our world, but ripples out to other people around us as well. And when we're beginning to grasp that our choices create, everything can shift and change beyond that. It makes me wonder about that foundation class that we had in February, the Global Foundation, where there were, I think, 3,500 people between live and online. And if 3,500 people each reach 350,000 people, I don't know, somebody else do the math, but it's a whole lot of people that changed. And there were a whole lot of clearings going on, a whole lot of different choices going on, and a whole lot of, like, that's my drink, thank you. Rocks being tossed, into, that's still my drink, thank you. I'm sorry, you have your drink over there and your food over there, but if you want to come over here, then come. Hello, still my drink. I think this she likes more than coffee. I need a smoothie. There we go. I'll give you some later, but I don't want you to put your head in that. All right. See, got distracted, lost my train, but that's okay. So yes, they all think that you cannot bring to reality that which is the spiritual world, but it's all energy. Into physical reality, into the actualization of something. And every man on the street has exactly the same point of view. In this reality, if it's a possibility, it can't actually exist in this reality. For most people, in other words. And only those who do not buy that point of view and who don't assume that it is absolutely impossible to bring things from the spiritual into a physical, from energy into form, are able to create, but they're only able to create a little bit. Who don't assume that it is absolutely impossible are able to create it, and even they are only able to create it in small ways, their reality. So if you focus your life upon making money, and your sole goal in life is to be Donald Trump, Bill Gates, does not matter, same image, same person, different body, same person, their life is about making money. Everything they do is about money. Well, why do they have to make so much money? Because like you, they are sure they're going to run out of it next week. Student, it's not just a game for them. Raz, no, it's not just a game for them. They are functioning from the point of view that there's not enough, and they will never have enough no matter what they do. It's just a different standard, that is all. Students, you're saying these people do not feel a certain freedom from their fortunes? Raz, you think Donald Trump has freedom? Oh boy. Student, to some extent, I think so. Raz, really? So he is able to drive in a limousine. Does that give him freedom? Or does that mean that he has to have bodyguards to safety him from everybody around him who's trying to take money from him? Oh, who's trying to get money out of him every day? Student, well, it gives the illusion of freedom. Raz, no, it gives you the illusion that this is freedom. You only think it is freedom because you do not have it, and because you've already defined that that is what freedom is. And when we let go of those definitions, a lot of things can begin to change. We see through the lenses of our definitions, our judgments, our points of view. So Raz, no, it gives you the illusion that this is freedom. You only think it is freedom because you do not have it. He's no more free than you. He just has more money to spend on things that he does not need. You think that makes him a bigger spirit because he has more money? Student, well, no, surely not. Raz, well, does it make him a lesser spirit? Student, no. Raz, interesting point of view there you guys got. You were all thinking it. You just didn't have the nerve to say it. It makes him worse because he has more money. So let's just like pause that right there. How many points of view, how many times do we catch ourselves, right, saying how, well, yes, I know, I'm sorry, I'm readjusting. How many times do we create this like conversation of us and them when we look at people who have money? Oh, well, you know, they grew up with a silver spoon, or they've always, you know, there's this energy of separation just by this, well, he's got to be less than me because he has money. There's even a saying, I can't remember the chances of a rich man going to heaven is like, I can't remember. There's a saying that obviously doesn't mean that much in my world, but you know, different people have mentioned it, and there's a lot, especially in the like the spiritual communities, etc. It's considered quote unquote bad to have money, and when you have money, then that doesn't reflect very well on you spiritually, and that's what's going on in this conversation because he has more money. But you're at a money workshop looking to have more money, while saying, oh, you know, Trump, he's worse off because I don't have money. You know, I'm a better person than Trump, and in that sense, look at that conflictual universe. It's just from a tiny little point of view, and we're looking at it here. But how many conflictual universes are created in our world with the conversations that we listen to? With the, geez, I was speaking to a friend of mine, Christy, the other day, and she had mentioned to me that one of the doctors here in Guatemala who was treating at one of the public hospitals said it's the privileged people's fault that there's coronavirus now in Guatemala, because the privileged people have traveled. Well, what does that create? It creates that separation, that us and them. The I will not have, they have, you know, and that's bad. But everybody wants that, but it's bad. So how can you have in your life what it is that you consider bad or wrong or lesser? You're gonna not create that in your life because of that separation. So how much are you defending for or against with money? That if you didn't defend for or against it, whether it's about spirituality or righteousness or anything else, if you didn't defend for or against it, would give you the wholeness of the joy of embodiment, of the beauty of this experience and the elegance of living. Anything that doesn't allow that, will you destroy and uncreate it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, pop, pock, shorts, boys, and beyonds. Well, yeah, that is what you were thinking. You didn't say it, but you thought it. Student, well, that makes some people control everything around him. Oh, sorry, yeah, it makes him worse because he has more money. Student, yeah, you're right. Raz, yes, that is what you were thinking. You did not say it, but you thought it. Student, well, that makes some people control everything around him. Raz, really? Yes, he is controlling. He's controlling the sun, the moon, the stars. He has total control of those things. Student, but controlling people are not. Raz, oh, controlling people. So that's your standard of greatness. Student, that's not my standard. No, that's not my standard. We're talking about Gates and his acquisitions and Trump and his acquisitions to determine his control. Raz, is he being controlled in truth? Student, no, Raz, or is he controlled by his need for money, or in Trump's case now, that he wants his tweets to spread or be liked or whatever? Is he controlled by his need for money? His life is totally boxed in by the necessity of creating more and more and more money, because that is the only way that he feels adequate. Oh boy, my mind just went somewhere else, but I'm going to keep that one to myself. Student. But I also think that the energy he puts out to absorb, Raz, all right, you have another word that you personally are going to put into your vocabulary to eliminate. Remember, we had want, need, try, but, and why as words to eliminate. That was in chapter 2, I believe. Student, what? Raz, but. Student, but. Raz, but. Every time someone tells you something, you get a but out, which is interesting. If you go back and actually look at the words, you see every time that Raz would say something, right, this person would counter with that, yes, but what you're saying doesn't align and agree with my point of view. But what you're saying doesn't fit into what I believe to be true. But what you're saying doesn't work with the reasons and justifications and the difficulties that I have in my life. So he's always getting this but out, which means that rather than receiving the information going, that's interesting, okay, well, which part of this interesting stuff is relevant for me? Or, that's interesting, let me just sit with that and see what actually works for me from this and what doesn't work for me. And if it doesn't work for me, I don't have to take it. I don't have to buy it. It's not all necessarily relevant to me. And if it does, even if it doesn't land in my universe now, if it lands in my universe, in 2 years, fine. I don't have to keep putting up barriers and barricades, defending or looking at what is the value of something based on, am I going to receive this or not? Let me put my dukes up and fight you for the rightness of my point of view. And that's, are you willing to be beyond right and wrong? Or are you just stuck in that, no, I'm going to tell you, this is what I think, and this is what I think. Well, are you actually really present with what is and what's coming up? Or present with the person who shows up in front of you, whether they be, I see Sara Maria on the screen in front of me and she's a doctor, so if it's a patient, or I'm a mom, it could be one of my kids or my friend's kids that shows up. Am I looking at their reputation and their whatever, or what I've already judged, this kid talks a lot, I just, or am I going to be present with, okay, hi, I'm here fully. What's up? What's going on? And be willing to be there with what is, rather than, I'm going to put my dukes up and defend the rightness of my point of view. So put them up like that cowardly lion. Actually, what's going to take more strength? Being that cowardly lion.
Can I just say something that really popped when you were commenting? I think one thing that has allowed me to be more interesting point of view when people tell me, you must do this, or this is what's really happening, is really to ask myself, is this really relevant to my life and to my situation and to my present? Yeah. Because if it's not relevant, why do you even spend the energy refuting or rejecting or trying to prove that you have the rightness in the point of view? I mean, if it's not relevant, just let it go. I mean,
exactly. And it's so much easier, isn't it? And you
have to be you have to take the point of view that you are willing to look like an idiot and not even comment. It's like, well, okay, whatever you say, interesting. So you have to be able to allow yourself to be judged as a non-informed person, or just like being neutral, basically. It's just like, oh, okay, really? I never thought about it the way you're telling me. Interesting.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Sara Maria. I don't necessarily think of myself as being an idiot. I don't care if somebody would like to judge me as that. No, I know what you're saying.
I didn't mean it like
that.
Yeah,
no, I didn't get it like that. I'm saying, like, in a conversation, I had a conversation with Avi yesterday about his side of the family and how they judge us to be so weird, etc. And that's what I mean, the willingness but I don't even think about it. I'm willing to, and that's what I was trying to express. It's not about even, it's just not bothering. It's going even beyond the effort of, I've got to be willing to allow them to just, so, you know, there was a wasp, a really big ass wasp that was flying here a few minutes ago. And I was like, okay, I could get all panicky and just go, you know, whatever. I think I told it space at one point, you know, just to, but it was like, okay, I'm just not going to bother. It's not even worth my putting attention on what are they going to think of me. It's just kind of Vaseline right off. And so I don't even have to go, okay, let me practice. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view about their point of view. It's just like what you were saying, not relevant. It's just, okay, cool. There's blah, 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 blah. I don't even have to figure out what the blah, blah, blah is. If it's something that's going to be a contribution to create something greater, it'll pop in my world and I'll be able to, you know, play with it, play with the person. But if it's just that extra blah, 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 it rolls right off. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. So Ras says, every time somebody tells you something, you get a butt out. This is true, says the students. Well, it is true for many of you, said Raz, for most of you. When you're given a piece of information, you instantly start to create an opposite point of view because it does not align and agree with you. Because it does not align or agree, because it is resistance on your part to allow it, or because you are in reaction to it. After all, it is only an interesting point of view that this man is run by money. Student, well, that is what I wanted to say, but again, see that but? Raz, no, you have another point of view as an interesting point of view. That is all of it. Student, well, yes, I'm learning that. Raz, it's of no value. Anytime, every time that you create a consideration about money, and this one I actually starred, every time you create a consideration about money, you create a limitation upon yourself. Upon yourself. So every consideration, in other words, every point of view, every thought, feeling, emotion, everything that you've got going on about money, right? You create it as a limitation, as a contraction, as a solidity, and you're not allowing it to be that mutation of possibilities that it could be. Every time you create a consideration about money, you create a limitation upon yourself. And every time that you tell somebody else what your point of view is, you create a limitation upon them. Because every time that they align and agree or resist and react to whatever point of view that you're sharing, be it about money or anything else, they're buying it as either aligning or agreeing or resisting and reacting, and then it is a solidity. So the majority of people on this planet don't know that they could just listen to your point of view and go, that's interesting. It could just flow off my back. And so then we create a lockup, not just in our own universe, but we so generously spread the limitation to everybody else who's actually listening to us. If you wish to create freedom, welcome to Passover, holiday of freedom, then be freedom. Freedom is no consideration at all. And freedom is the willingness to be able to choose any possibilities. Freedom is choices. What would the world look like if you manifested all of life with ease and joy and glory, with no consideration about limitation at all? If you had unlimited thought and unlimited ability and unlimited allowance, would there be graffiti? Remember, this class was in New York, and if you've seen New York City, there's lots of that. So would there be graffiti? Would there be homeless? Would there be war? Would there be devastation? Would there be blizzards? So please get that. What would the world look like if you manifested all of life? In other words, if you were freaking willing and other people were willing to be all of life comes to us with ease and joy and glory, what with no point of view about any limitation at all, what would the world look like if we manifested all of life with ease and joy and glory, with no consideration about limitation at all? Limitation doesn't exist, and all of life comes with ease, joy, and glory, because if it's there's an obstacle in your way, you go around it, you go over it, you go under it. Some of you guys know the story if you've read the book Doorway to Possibilities that Nilofer Safdar put together from a telesummit. In the chapter that I had contributed to the book, I mentioned a story when I was, I think, 15 or 16 or something like that. We were at an event. I was in a modeling class because, just whatever, my teenage years. But anyway, we were going down the stairs from this building. My parents chose to go down the stairs after we had the event there. And we got to the first floor of the office building, and we tried to use a manual door out. Well, the door wasn't working, and we weren't able to go out. It was locked. On the other wall, there was one of those buttons that you press to release, but we didn't know that. We didn't even look for the button. I don't think there was even a sign on the door that says press button, on other wall or whatever. So we could no longer go up. We tried to go up to the next flight of stairs. Doors were locked. So here we are trapped in the, in the stairwell. And my dad took out, he had a folding knife in his pocket, whatever, and he started to dig into the wall. And he made a hole in the wall where he could reach, it took him a while, where he could reach his hand in and then open the door from the outside so we could go out. And it was just like, listen, we've got to get through. We're not going to stay stuck in this stairwell. We were knocking on the doors, whatever. Nobody was coming because everybody was either using the elevators. I don't know what possessed us to go down the stairs, but everybody else was far away, and it was night. So it wasn't like there were a lot of people in the office building. And it was just, we've got to do this. We're doing this. If it doesn't work this way, it works another way. So if there's a point of view and you let whatever that thing go in, around, whatever, when you're willing to be, all of life comes with ease, joy, and glory. Maybe a little more complicated to dig with a knife rather than see that there's a button and you could push it. I don't think it even landed in our universe that there was a button there until weeks later when I happened to be in the building again and happened to notice. But it's like, if you recognize that you're willing to be the energy that will outcreate whatever shows up, then all of life does come with ease, joy, and glory, because there's always another way. And you can always go around, and something else can always show up in your life if you're willing to be that. So if the world is, all of life comes with ease, joy, and glory with no consideration about limitation at all. If you had unlimited thought and unlimited ability and unlimited allowance, would there be graffiti? Would there be homeless? Would there be war? Would there be devastation? Would there be blizzards? If somebody would announce that terrible things are happening and we didn't rush to align and agree or resist and react to them, we could just look at it and go, that's interesting. And if we would like a life of ease, joy, and glory, well, what isn't ease, joy, and glory? We could just not keep giving our attention to that. If we'd like to have a life of prosperity and ease, and we have this point of view, oh my God, I can't, we're putting so much energy on entertaining that thought rather than allowing it to move and going, that's an interesting point of view. If it isn't the energy of what you'd like to have and be in your life, putting a lot of your life into that energy is not going to bring you more of what you desire in your life. It's actually going to keep you further and further away from it. Students, so what is the difference? Wouldn't there be weather? Raz, if you had no consideration about blizzards or viruses, there would be weather, but there would not be the snowstorms. Listen to your television set when it comes close to the time when there's going to be snow coming to you. Yes, they manifest. Oh, they go talking and talking about how great a storm it is going to be. Anybody watch the news in the last month and a half at any point in time, or 2 months? All the panic that people began building up and building up and building up about how terrible things are and how terrible things are going to be. And oh, wait, we haven't even gotten close to the beginning of whatever this is. It's the same kind of thing. And when we give that energy, that's exactly what we're making bigger. Somebody mentioned something good about money, aligning and agreeing with solidify it. Would it be something okay to do? No, if everything is just an interesting point of view, every time you agree, so interesting point of view, that I'm going into agreement or alignment, because that what you call good is a judgment. Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all nine, shorts, boys and beyonds. And thank you for that, because that's where that's like when people say, oh, we have to be positive here. It's not about being positive, it's about being pragmatic. What's working at this point in time? What's going on over here? Not about having to make everything be, and that's why the mantras, all of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. We're not saying, I'm just gonna have this stuff that's like all rosy and spiritual and so wonderful, and don't even talk to me about that stuff. I'm not gonna align and agree or resist. You can't. And you're putting up barriers and you're not allowing everything in. But if everything comes in, whatever it is, good, bad, different, whatever, and it's all just an interesting point of view, then it doesn't matter. But you could use judgment, you could use solidification of people's point of view to your advantage. Like Dane does, for example, wearing the cool suits that he does. If you see any videos of Dane, he'll be wearing, like really rad suits, especially loud ones, and Brendan's doing the same thing now too, to bring up people's judgments, because then they judge him as a rich bastard. And if they judge him as being wealthy, if they judge him as, oh my God, controversial, oh, he must know something that I don't know, then he uses that judgment to receive more. If you remember in your foundation class, Misha, one of the things is when you have a judgment, when you're willing to receive a judgment, and this is one that he is orchestrating. He is doing things to bring up certain judgments. Gary's masterful at that as well, with the controversial comments that he makes. So the more he's willing to bring up the judgment and receive it, the more he receives. Every time you receive a judgment, no aligning and agreeing, no resisting and reacting, the more money you have in your bank account. You want to know more? There's a couple of foundation classes coming up. I'll be facilitating with Luisa in Spanish in April. I think it's the 22nd to the 28th. We'll be facilitating 4 hours a day. And then May 8th through the 11th, I'll be co-facilitating foundation in English with Dr. Helen Gitlovich, who is absolutely amazing. We just chose to do that yesterday, and I'll be setting up the class on the Access page. So if anybody would like to go through foundation in Spanish or in English, there are so many amazing tools, and especially with what's going on in the world now, there's so much that these tools can contribute. So what else is possible? So it isn't about that there wouldn't be weather. It isn't about that, like here, if you had no consideration about blizzards, yes, there would be weather. It's part of life and living, but there would not have to be these overwhelming storms. There would not have to be snowstorms. Listen to your television set when it comes close to the time when there's going to be snow coming to you. Yet look at the toilet paper blizzard of March 2020. With people panicking and buying so much toilet paper, and then people picturing it on the news and talking about it and making it even more of a big deal, that made more people run out and buy more toilet paper, to the point that now I don't know if anybody actually has any toilet paper, but we have a bidet, so we're happy. When it comes close to the time there's going to be snow, they manifest. They go on talking and talking about how great of a storm it is going to be. The storm of 96 and the second storm of 96, and it's going to be the worst Hurricane 5 category, whatever, 5 storm. Have you guys ever heard those kinds of news things? It's going to be a great and glorious blizzard here, and there's going to be devastation, and you better get to the store, and you better buy more right away. Everything is fear-based rather than allowance-based. Isn't that interesting? How many of you buy the point of view and start to create your life from that panic, from that fear, from that resistance and reaction or aligning and agreement. Student, well, not the buying. I could spend the afternoon in the park. Raz, oh, you bought the point of view. That's what we're talking about. You instantly decided that what they were saying was true. Do not listen to your television sets. Get rid of them. Or watch only those programs which are totally brainless. Watch Scooby-Dooby-Doo. And I will say, that's how I learned to speak English. I watched Scooby-Doo. Watch cartoons, more interesting points of view on them. You listen to the news, you're going to be very depressed, and you're going to have many ideas about what money is. All right, so where were we here? Okay, let us get back here. Confusion. You understand the confusion now? Student, no. Raz, all right. What more would you wish to understand here? You are creating the confusion. What invention are we using to create the confusion, the upset, the inventions? We are choosing everything that is right, wrong, good, bad, all nine box shorts, boys and beyonds. Student, well, who am I? Am I a body? Are you here? Is there someone else here? Is there a reality? Is there any difference? What the hell is existence? Are you, or is everything pure energy and there's no separation between spirit and soul and consciousness? That this is it? There's nothing to be said about anything. So all the suffering and all the sorrow and all the illusion and all the separation and all the confusion. Well, what is that? What? Raz. And this is a brilliant, brilliant response. Creation. It's an invention. It is a creation. It is a vibrational virtual reality, if you'd like to call it that. It is the movie that you have stepped into. It is the book that you are the hero, heroine, or I don't know, maybe you're not even cast in your own movie as a hero or heroine. Maybe you're cast in as a supporting actor or as something else. But it is not as real as you think it is, because everything that you've decided is real is actually creation and invention. Student, right. Raz, you have created. Student, so on this level, we create something that humans, which is creation, and this ego self, which is a creation, considers that there's something called money and location, which is creation, which means that if we're on Wall Street, or we're doing the US history of 1996 of New York City, then we are agreeing that you and these other people coexist together. Have you guys ever played multiplayer video games? It's kind of like that. This person is playing one game, you're playing another, and in some places your paths cross. And there you're a player in somebody else's reality, quote unquote. It seems real, but it isn't necessarily. Raz, so why do you not understand? Student, everybody else is you, and you are everybody else. Another student, well, that's something. I don't understand it. Raz, you are creating yourself as separate. Notice he used the word creating there too. It's a creation, it's a point of view, it's an invention. We think that because I'm in this body and you're in that body, that we're separate. We're actually part of something called oneness, where everything is included and nothing is judged. We're creating ourselves as separate. You're creating yourself as different. You're creating yourself as debilitated, and you're creating yourself as anger. And rather than recognizing the truth of the space and the possibility, the infiniteness that he bees. Student, I'm so frustrated. Raz, yes, but it's really the anger that's underneath. Student, oh, yes. Raz, because you feel powerless. Well, that is the basic assumption from which you are functioning. That is always the basic assumption of confusion. Every confusion is based on the idea, and it is just an idea, it is just a point of view, that you have no power and you have no ability. isn't the truth of who you are. It is just a point of view. Every confusion is based on the idea that you do not have power and you have no ability. Student, but I don't. Raz, yeah, you do. Student, well, I feel I don't. Raz, look at your life. What have you created? Did you start out with a magnificent amount of money? Did you start out with a palace and lose it all? Or did you just create and then get into confusion about it and then get into doubt about it, and it began to fall away from you because you were creating confusion and because you were creating doubt about yourself? Yes, that is where your life went. But none of it is the truth of you. You, as a being, have total power to create your life. And you can, and you will, and it will come together in more magnificent ways than you can even imagine. But it will come from you having faith. And this is for all of you. Faith, what he calls faith here, is that confidence, the trust in yourself, which is part of the elements of intimacy. It will come from you having faith. Faith in yourself. Faith in knowing that you have created the reality that exists now, and the awareness that you are willing to change it. That you do not desire to be that any longer. That's all it takes. The willingness to allow it to be different. And that's where our sense of that's where we create our world from. If we're willing to have that trust in ourselves rather than looking for safety and security outside, we recognize that we are the source of our reality. Student, so if life changes, does that mean that it's confused consciousness that creates more Bosnias and homeless people? Well, where does that consciousness go? Where do the dark entities that I may have created, or some other portion of me that's been so separated from the views that's on the television set, which I see the homeless people, which I see, or the homeless person, where does that go if I say, well, it's not my reality, I don't believe in it, I don't choose that anymore? Raz, it's not a matter. You see, you are doing it from resistance. So when he's saying, no, 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 I won't look at that, it's resisting it rather than, that's an interesting choice that somebody's making from allowance, right, of whatever people choose. Student, right. Raz, right? For change to occur in anything, whether it's your body, finances, or relationships with other people, or anything else. For change to occur, you must function in allowance, not resistance, not reaction, not on alignment or agreement. Allowance says, well, I'm willing to allow it, says the student. I just want to understand where, Raz, you are functioning at resistance because you are trying to understand from something that does not really exist. You're trying to make a truth out of a lie. That other people, in their own free will and choice, are also creating from something that does not exist. So it's a continuation of acceptance, alignment or agreement, reaction or resistance. Those are the functional elements of your world. And you, in order to change it, must function an allowance. Every time that you are in allowance, you change all of those around you. And I'm going to repeat that because that is like a guiding light for life. This is where all of life comes to us with ease and joy and glory. Are you in resistance or are you in receiving? If you'd like to have the grand and glorious possibilities in life, you have to get better at receiving. And receiving can only happen when you have no point of view that's barricading you or, protecting you or defending you or trying to bulldoze somebody else's point of view. You just see what is and recognize it as what it is. It's just a creation. It's just a point of view. It doesn't have to be true and real for you. So every time that you are in allowance, whether it's of money, whether it's of you, whether it's of other people, whether it's of the crazy of this coronavirus, every time that you are in allowance, you change all of those around you. Every time somebody comes at you with a strong point of view, and you can say, interesting point of view, and be an allowance of it, you've shifted the consciousness of the world because you've not bought it, you've not made it more solid, you've not gone into agreement with it, and you've not resisted it. You've not reacted to it, and you've not made it reality. You have allowed reality to shift and change. And that's the gift of allowance. It is not the boxing in and solidifying. It is allowing everything to keep shifting and changing and be what is formless, what is mutable, and not forcing it into being a form and a structure and having a meaning and significance. You've allowed a reality to shift and change. Only allowance creates change. You must allow yourself as much as you allow others. It's interesting, we've got one of those big soapy like this, ended up on top of the roof. You must allow yourself as much as you allow others. Otherwise, you have bought the store and you're paying for it with your credit cards. In other words, you've taken everybody else's lies, lines, manipulations, points of view, whatever it is that they're creating the world from, you've taken it home and you've said, okay, only from these very ingredients can I create my reality, rather than walking through the world and recognizing that there's infinite possibilities. And which of these amazing possibilities, or how many of them, would you like to add to your life and world? So you've allowed yourself as much as you allow others. Otherwise, you must allow yourself as much as you allow others. Otherwise, you've bought the store and you're paying for it with your credit cards. Student, so does that become total pacificity for the world? Raz, absolutely not. Let us do this. All of you think about this for a minute. But you, student, you be the guinea pig here, okay? All right. Everybody else can do this too. You have 10 seconds left to live the rest of your life. 10 seconds. What are you going to choose? Chewy smoothie. Your life is up. You didn't make a choice. You have 10 seconds to live the rest of your life. What are you going to choose? Student, I choose not to choose. Raz, you are choosing not to choose. But you see, you can choose anything. If you begin to realize that you only have 10 seconds to create from, 10 seconds, just 10 seconds is all it takes to create reality. 10 seconds. Less than that in trust, but for right now, that is the increment from which you must function. If you function from 10 seconds, would you choose joy or would you choose sadness? Student, I'd have to take sadness. Raz, exactly so. You see, you've created your reality from the choice of sadness. How many underlying choices do we use to create the matrices of lack, scarcity, fear, panic, being at the effect of everyone else that we're using? Interesting, eh? And this is the third of the 10 commandments. Choose your life in 10-second increments. The second of the 10 commandments is being an allowance. Everything is just an interesting point of view. And the first of the 10 commandments, which boils into all of them really, is, are you, if an infinite being wouldn't choose this, why would you? If you're an infinite being, if you're the big blue sky, why would you limit yourself to trying to occupy the space of one tiny little cloud, or even a big cloud? But why would you confuse yourself between that thought, feeling, motion, or anything else, and being the infinite possibility that you could be? So it's interesting how Access weaves in and out of this book, and this was the original foundation class. So this student has created his life based on sadness. Everything was based on this underlying point of view that he had taken. So you've created your reality from the choice of sadness. It wasn't happening to him. He could choose something different, but he preferred to see himself as a victim, or herself as a victim, as sad, as things happening to them. When you choose from the past, or when you choose from an expectation of the future, you've not made any choice at all. You've actually not lived, and you're not living your life. You're existing as a monumental, monolithic limitation. If you're just repeating what you've chosen previously, or if you're living in worry, what good is it gonna do? See, choosing in 10-second increments is like eating the food that you have on your plate. You can't worry about what you ate yesterday. That doesn't change what you've got on your plate right this second. And you can choose whether you'd like to eat it or not, or put something else on the plate. And it isn't about worrying about what it is that you're going to eat tomorrow, because you're not there yet. It's not on your plate. It's theoretical. So are you gonna live and choose, create, or are you gonna live in resistance and reaction, or alignment and agreement with what you're afraid of, or regret of what you'd already done? Interesting point of view, eh? Student, yes. Well, all right, says Raz, what's your next answer? Number 2 on your list of what you, well, wait, what was the question? We've forgotten. Student, what does money feel like to you? What does money feel like to you, says Raz. Yes, thanks. Student, well, to me, the bottom line, I guess, on this plane is fight in prison. Raz, yes. Very interesting point of view, eh? Money feels like fight in prison. Well, that certainly describes everybody in this room. Is there anybody who does not see that as the reality of what they've created? Student, fight in prison? Raz, yes. Student, well, I don't. Raz, you don't see that? Student, well, a little bit, but I don't understand what that means actually. Raz, are you not fighting constantly to get money? Student, oh, all right. Raz, and you do not feel that it is a prison, that you do not have enough? Student, I give up. Laughter. Raz, fine. Student, we must all be in a similar reality. Raz, you are all living in the same reality. So do we need to make even a comment about this? So I'm going to pause for a second and look at that. If the underlying point of view is that you have to work hard to get money, or that you're in the prison of not enough, I always have to struggle, and that's going to be what's running your life, can you actually have ease and joy and glory? Or does that go totally against your standards and cornerstones for living? If your underlying foundation of your life is creating from pain and suffering and struggle, you can, keep going from there, and that's okay, because some people, it has a value to them, and that's where we ask a question and access, like, well, what is the value for you with this point of view? Like, how is this a contribution to your life? For some people, it makes them feel more real, like they belong on this planet. It works for them. I would say that probably describes 99% of the people on my husband's side of the family. Probably not only my husband's side of the family, right? But that's their point of view. It has to look like this. And if it isn't proper, it's not acceptable. And if somebody's a little irreverent, or they laugh a little loudly, or whatever, that doesn't fit in the box. Apparently, I don't fit in their box. How does it get even better? But that's the interesting thing. It's just a point of view, and you can't contain the sky. It's just not possible. So this is where you begin to question the underlying solidity of the foundation of your life, and begin to choose, what would I like to have in my life? What would I like to create as my future? What works for me? What's going to be fun for me? What's true for me? How can I have more ease with everything here? And this is where these tools really come in super handy. Okay, so what about this student with his barter system? Raz, well, is that not a small prison of its own? Student, well, I don't know for sure. How do you feel about it, student? Student, yeah, it is, because if it has to come in a particular way, or it's defined in how it can show up, when it can show up, like saying, even, my sessions are such and such amount of money. Really? What if that's not the only way things have to be, or the only way that money can show up in your life? Who says that it has to only come this one defined way? Barter system is like trading money for dollars or whatever currency, you know, goes on in your neck of the woods. But it's not necessarily all that. Who says it all has to be salaried? How many other possible income streams and how many other possibilities can you create and open up doorways for all sorts of things? What if somebody contributes to you just because they love your smile, they love the sound of your voice, and that you're a contribution to them? There are all sorts of people and they contribute in different ways. Who defines where and how it comes from? That's where it's like a prison cell, all those definitions. Anytime we define, we confine, and we limit. Student, yes, it is. Raz, yes, it is. You see, everybody has their own point of view. You are looking at this student and seeing his reality as freedom, and he's looking at Donald Trump as freedom. Student, okay, so you're saying that we have to talk about it. Well, how does this kind of go with it? Raz, allowance. Interesting point of view, eh? That I feel imprisoned by money. Interesting point of view that money feels like prison to me. Does it feel like velvet to you? Does it feel like expansion to you? No, it feels like diminishment. Was that a reality or what you've chosen and how you've chosen to create your life? It is how you've chosen to create your life. It is not more a reality than the walls, but you have decided that the walls are solid and that they keep the cold out. How much have we decided about ourselves that if we'd let that go would change everything? You've decided that these walls are solid and they keep the cold out, and so they work. So also do you make your limitations about money and about you with the same sort of solidity. Begin to function in allowance. Allowance, that is your ticket to get out of the trap that you have created. All right, next question. And since I stopped and took, well, actually, why not? We'll do, or should we do a couple of the little ones tomorrow? Not tomorrow. Tomorrow, Friday, yes. We'll do 5, 6, and 7 tomorrow then, because I'm already at about an hour and a half. So that's pretty cool. Allowance, I love that. Allowance, interesting point of view, that I feel imprisoned by money, that it feels like prison to me. Interesting point of view that I feel rich people have blah, blah, blah. And that when I say rich people and make it a they, that it's a something that excludes me from that, for example. An interesting point of view that this virus is a pandemic. Says who? And who defines what a pandemic is? And every definition is a limitation by definition alone. So does it feel like velvet to you, or does it feel like expansion to you? No, it feels like diminishment. Is that a reality or what you've chosen and how you have chosen up to now to create your life? It is how you've chosen to create your life. It is not more of a reality than the walls. But you have decided that the walls are solid and they keep the cold out. So they work. So also you make your limitations about money with that same sort of solidity. Begin to function in allowance. That's your ticket to get out of the trap that you have created. Thank you guys for being on live and for questions and comments. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's always great to listen.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. And if you know somebody else who's interested or who would like it, the recordings are not on YouTube. I guess I could put them on YouTube, but I would make them private, or I don't know. I hadn't kind of targeted this for putting it on YouTube as I've done with other things. I kind of made it the space of the group. So if you know of anyone who would like that, or if they struggle with English, I do have a Spanish one that's up on YouTube. That's a full deep dive into the book. But it's interesting. The more I'm reading it now in English, the more it's landing in my world, how much I didn't get it before, even though I've read it multiple times, and talked about it multiple times. And I'm getting things in a way that I don't even have the words yet to kind of point the way with. It's really, really fascinating. Anyway, it's a gift. I love this book because there's so much in it.
So tomorrow, same time?
At 11 o'clock. Yeah, I have a class this week that's every day at 10 a.m. So that's why right after I end the one Zoom and then I open up this Zoom. And I think next week we'll go back to the 10 a.m. time slot. Okay? Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Arrivederci.